The story begins with the fact that a girl named Jang Yao was steadily stepping around the hall, radiating beauty and elegance. The girl was captured by the passionate views of people. Jang Yao was the eldest daughter of Jiang's family. There were many young people who rested with everyday life in the hall. Women flirted with men and asked for delicious desserts. The waiter who approached Jang Yao almost lost his head from the girl's attractiveness. The man looked at her with admiration. Meanwhile, she suddenly threw one of the glasses. People who were nearby watched nervously where the glass, who literally flew over them, would hit. Suddenly, one of the girls, a glass hit the temple. It was painful. Jang Yao looked at Junshi, but wondered if she was still hot. The man who was near the girl attacked the accusations of Jang Yao. The man quarreled, being indignant by Jang Yao. Once upon a time, there was a conflict between the girls, and the enmity still prevailed. Jang Yao believed that the girl liked to lift other people's arrivals. She smiled cunningly, saying that she had brought her a glass of beer so that she would not have to steal him. Jang Yao did not understand why the girl was so angry. Yunshi was painful and offensive, and she publicly shouted that Jang Yao was just a garbage that her own parents gave up. The girls began to pour dirt with dirt and find out the relationship. The man did not want to tolerate Jang Yao and ordered her to close her mouth. The man was in love with Junshi and did not want someone to offend her. The man with anger pushed Jang Yao, rapping his lover. He asked Jang Yao to let him go, believing that their feelings have long been over. Jang Yao did not want her husband to touch her and gave him a slap. Yunshi was scared of her lover and attacked with threats at the girl, but Jang Yao, knowing herself the price, hit her on her face. Yunshi was waiting for explanations from Jang Yao. She could not believe that some pathetic girl hit her, the daughter of a family, because Jang Yao did not consider the girl some special. Yunshi plunged into the arms of her lover, complaining about him. Jang was angry with Jang Yao and asked her to blame him all over him and to leave Yunshi alone. Jang Yao gordo and looked at the young people with disgust. She believed that lovers should be ready to give each other life and be responsible for everything together. Jang tried to persuade the girl to behave with dignity because many people were looking at them. Jang Yao seemed to flash. The girl began to express her dissatisfaction with the fact that young people were kissing publicly because in such places it was customary to communicate. Jang Yao began to feel great hatred of her husband because he, without putting the final point in their relationship, without shy, kissed Yuni. Jang Yao believed that the man was so impatient that he wanted to tighten the unhappy girl as soon as possible. Junishi had no idea why the girl had such obscene thoughts. Jang did not hold back and began to shout at Jang Yao. He frankly admitted that he would not walk on the side if she did not refuse to come back to him. The man has accused Jang Yao. The girl lowered her head and confessed that she made a mistake, but supplemented her problem in excessive morality. She tried to assure her husband that he would never be understood. The angry man raised his hand, and Jang Yao seemed to be about to hit her. But Jang stopped in place. The girl looked closely at him and called him obscene. Zhao Yao considered her ex uncharacteristic. She waved for young people and wished them happiness, though it was completely insincere. Then she turned around and went the other way. The people who were present in the restaurant hall filmed everything on their mobile phones. The man did not like it, and he expressed his dissatisfaction. After a while, Yao sat behind a bar counter with her girlfriends. The girls believed that Yao had completely got crazy. They were interested in the girl's further actions. Sun Yao was quarreling for her girlfriend for not calling her. She believed that the girl should appreciate her reputation. Yao was convinced that it was the fault of her former and his new passion, and she had nothing to fear. Yao stared at her girlfriend and told her she had never lost. Duan Fei believed that the girlfriend always fought desperately with injustice and never stayed in fools. However, her reputation has already been blown up. For Yao, it all didn't matter. Nyan Yao rejoiced that Junie was aware of merit. She remembered it with a laughter. Yao launched a glass with beer and also gave a slap. The girlfriend was sure that the worthless girl would not climb to Yao. The girl has a brilliant plan. She wanted to take revenge on her ex and Uni. The girl came to think that to twist the novel with her brother, Jun Si, would be a brilliant revenge. Yao believed that when she became a man, no one dares to pour her dirt. Yao was convinced that with Jin Lan she would make young people to kneel, humbly calling her a relative and serving her tea. Yao suggested that girls gossip and have fun while she went to the restroom. It seemed to his friends that Yao Yao had got drunk. They also knew well that the girl really liked the older brother of Bo Junshi. Duanfei confirmed that Yao Yao had not just felt sympathy for her husband, but went crazy. It was her first love. Meanwhile, because Jin Lan, the son of the family, was sitting with a friend in the same restaurant, men talked on different topics, drinking alcoholic beverages. When, despite the men, Yao Zhao Jin Lana paid attention to her, considering her as cute, the man also argued that the figure of the girl was beautiful. Suddenly, Jin Lan got up. The man told a friend about going out to smoke. Jin Duel entered the toilet where Yao was located. Meanwhile, the girl was holding her head, realizing that she had clearly overdue it with alcohol. Her goodness was nauseous. Yao Yao mentally accused her former and his new passion that she got drunk. Luck his look at the man nearby. Yao Yao seemed like he looked like Jin Laja. Putting several times with the eyes of Yao Yao realized that he was for sure. The man slowly smoked his cigarette. Their views met. The girl thought that she had some hallucinations. Suddenly she had fallen but did not fall. The man quickly caught Yao Yao. The girl, recovering, realized that they were not hallucinations. She couldn't believe her eyes. Jin Lan himself, as if he were holding her hand by his hand. Yao Yao had no idea as a man was next to her. However, she thanked him politely, though she was barely standing on her feet. Suddenly, the man grabbed the girl firmly for his waist and pressed against himself. His slow breathing made Yao Yao hold his breath. Looking at the girl, Jin Lan suggested that she spend the night together. Being in a state of shock, Yao Yao could not say a word. Yao Yao was thinking that the man heard their conversation with his girlfriends. The girl had no other explanation. She looked at Jin Lana confusedly, then she pushed him away and fled. Jin Lan was fascinated by the girl. The man noted that Yao Yao had grown up enough and became a beauty. At the restaurant, the girl accidentally met her uncle. According to strange circumstances, the girl had to meet with Jin Lan and another man. Yao Yao was upset that her girlfriends had gone prematurely. Chen Zhu Jia was Uncle Yao. He was a forensic expert. In Chenjiang Jia, there was an interesting conversation with Jin Lan. Yao Yao said she was indifferent what men were talking about, but in fact, she tried to listen to their conversation. Uncle Yao argued that John once was engaged in his niece. The man lowered his head and said he remembered. Chen Junjia asked a friend to look after the girl, and in the case of something, he to report everything. The man was interested in how his niece returned for a long time, and why she did not ask her to meet her at the airport, because she gave her behavior to many. Yao Yao muttered that she was not a baby for a long time, and did not want to worry about her too much. The girl was ashamed because her uncle described her pranks one by one. The husband reminded her niece with her relationship with his ex-boyfriend and how bad they ended. Chen Junjia, in all details, loudly described what a worthless man was Jan. Jin Lan reluctantly listened to the gossip, so he asked the man to stop meaningless chats. Also in support of Yao Yao, he asked Chen Junjia not to pour the girl salt on the wound. The man heard the words of a friend and drowned. The men's plans to discuss one topic. But Chen Junji immediately told his friends that his father would not be able to help with this issue. In the middle of a completely adult conversation, Yao Yao became quite boring, although the girl was constantly looking at Jin Lana, who noticed the girl's wall. At some moment, Yao drank a whole glass of wine. The girl became uncomfortable with the wall and seductive views of Jin Lana. Her plans had a relationship with him, but she was afraid. Chen Zhujia noticed that his niece had been too fond of alcohol. The man was not liked because the girl was barely standing on her feet. From hopelessness, he suggested that her take her home. Suddenly, Chen Junjia dialed the phone. It happened a little urgent, and the man had to go to the scene. He persistently asked Jin Laja to take the girl home. Men's friend began to rejoice. He explained Jin Lanja that the girl would have at least hug to bring to the car. He asked a man with a smile whether he had touched a girl at least. Jin Lan, not listening to the derision of a friend, threw his jacket on Yao carefully and took her in his arms. Young people went to the car. Conveniently settling in the car, Jin Duel ordered the driver to take the girl home. But when he heard such words, Yao Yao began to whine that she didn't want to go home at all. The girl, completely leaning on her husband, stroked him. Inadvertently, Jin Laja's eyes went down to the girl's neckline, and without holding back, he closed her with a jacket. Despite the resistance of the girl, Jin Lan, being a responsible man, still ordered the driver to carry her home. Yao Yao began to be pleased with her husband not to do it, because at home she was waiting for her grandfather who would definitely not be happy about a drunken granddaughter. The man became wondering at what kind of place she planned to go Yao. She thought that the hotel would be the best option. She looked gently and kindly at her husband, and then fell into a strong sleep. Yao Yao has fallen the memories of her past. When she was still young, often Jin Lan complained about her brother's tricks. Then the man did not want to interfere with his brother and sister, so he denied defense. Even then, Yao Jiao confessed to her husband that she really liked, although he felt nothing to the girl, and she spoke directly about it. Such words were caused by incredible pain, Yao. Arriving at the hotel, the man put the girl in bed and decided to sit a little near her. Watching Yao Yao, her husband thought that she had dreamed of horrors. Opening her eyes, Zhao saw Jin Lana and did not believe her eyes. She was so drunk that she did not remember the latest events. She realized with great surprise that she was in the hotel. The girl had dirty thoughts in her head, and she began to blame her husband that he forcibly brought her to the hotel, and it was unknown what was about to do with her. To the great surprise of Yao, the husband carved her pillow and told her in a calm voice that it was her request. Jin Lan approached the girl too close. She, without restraining, gently hugged him. The girl even thought it was her dream. Yao Yao was already going to kiss her husband, but he stopped her, assuring that it was not a dream. The man whispered that it is too late. He carefully covered Yao and asked her to rest well. Jin Lan already wanted to go, but the girl grabbed him by the shirt. Then he leaned over her and breathed speed up. Yao Yao asked the man to stay. Yao Yao still thought it was her dream, and merged that her husband did not obey her even in a dream. She knocked her husband on the bed and began to undress him passionately. The man realized that Yao Yao was still in love with him. The man decided to ask about it directly. For his huge surprise, Yao Yao easily told that it was true. The girl believed that the man made her feel uncomfortable even in her own dream. Yao Yao passionately kissed a man. He did not resist because he felt the attraction to the girl. Jin Lan, in the impulse of feelings, firmly grabbed the girl in her arms. Yao Yao felt pain and asked the man not to do so and be tender. Then their kisses continued and grew into something more. In the morning, Yao felt the pain that shakes her whole body. The girl thought she was beaten. When Yao opened her eyes, she didn't understand where she was. Along with her, the girl saw a man who slept sweetly. Suddenly, she remembered her very ashamed. For a long time, when Jin's deck pushed the girl, she vowed to release this heartless man. 2 years have passed since the last meeting of young people. The girl could not believe that she was with her husband one bed. Yao decided to escape as soon as possible. The frightened girl was going to escape before Jin Lan wakes up. Her knees trembled, but a small plan of the girl failed. A few seconds, the man held her in his arms. Jin Lan loudly put Yao in bed and asked if the girl was okay. Yao Jiao covered with a blanket under the neck. She did not want her husband to touch her. Yao Yao was angry with her husband because, in her opinion, he turned out to be a bad one and used her uncontrolled state for his pleasure. The man did not understand the girl's behavior because last night she asked herself to take her to the hotel and insisted on an intimate relationship. As it turned out, Yao Yao has booked a room at another hotel, but the man did not know about it. Jin Lan told the girl how everything really was. The angry Yao was in despair that the man accused her. Yao Yao was so drunk that she completely disconnected her brain and gave up feelings. Yao quarreled the man for not pushing her. Jin Lan explained that he had also consumed alcohol and could not refuse a girl who flirted it too frankly. Yao Yao continued to blame the man of taking advantage of her too relaxed condition. In her opinion, the man turned out to be a common loose, although he showed himself a real gentleman. The girl had a soul, because she did not imagine her first time. To the great surprise of Yao, Jin Lan suggested that she marry him. The girl lost the gift of language and for a few minutes looked at her husband. Recovering, Yao Yao has refused to accept her husband's offer. The girl believed that they were quite adults and did not cost a situation that was too serious. Yao looked at her husband, understanding that he, a 30-year-old one, had only lost her. Laughing, the girl noticed that Jin Lan was still the joker. Yao Yao believed that a man was no longer at the age of getting married to a girl who gave him her first time. Yao Yao categorically did not want to get married, especially not so considered. The man decided to take the girl home, but first went into the shower. Yao Yao did not want to wait for Jin Lana's return, and wanted to get out of that damn place as soon as possible. The girl sincerely hoped that they would never meet again. She started getting out of bed and saw that her dress was torn from below. Yao Yao had nothing left but to put a blanket completely. Meanwhile, Jin Lan came out of the shower. Yao Yao lost the gift of language. The man had the perfect elastic press and clear contours of the muscles. Yao Yao was not surprised that their night was stormy. The man was only in one towel that was tied below his belt. Yao Jiao almost lost the gift of language and tried to come to herself and reject all the dirty thoughts from her head. Yao Yao immediately began to blame her husband that he had broken her dress in a gust of passion. She had no idea what to do next. The man suggested to dress the girl something of his clothes. Yao Yao was convinced that Jin Lan specifically broke her dress for fun. The girl even came to the thought that the husband was in detail. San Lan tried to explain to the girl that she herself asked to take her to the hotel. The man could not send Yao Yao, so he drove her to this hotel for her safety and stayed with her. Yao Yao did not fit in her head, as she could fall in love with such a box. She had no idea why she once considered her husband cute and polite. Yao Yao has dramatically changed the opinion of a man, considering him an elderly distortion. The angry girl also gathered in the shower. On the way, she exclaimed that she needed a new dress and a set of care cosmetics. Going into the bathroom, Yao Yao slammed the door. Jin Lan considered a young girl still stupid. Yao Yao began to look at everything on the shelf, hoping to find something for women. But unfortunately, only men's jars with a variety of filling were on the shelf. Yao Yao was thinking that she was the first girl to be there. After a while, the driver Jin Laja knocked on the door and brought him a package. It seemed to the man that everything is bad enough. Although Jin Lan seemed sweet and gentle at first glance, the man realized that he was a real tyrant. Suddenly, in the corridor, Jin Lan met his brother Yao. It was a rather uncomfortable situation. Chen Zhongji immediately wondered why Jin Lan didn't go home. The man was frozen and told that he was a little bit. Chen Junjia asked Tao Tao to rest because he wanted to take a shower and promised to return soon. Tao Tao wished Jin Lana a good day and left. Tao Tao was a former wife Chen Junjia. The man wanted to refresh himself and began to enter the number of a friend. But Jin Lan blocked the man's entrance with his own hand. Chen Junjia did not understand what was the matter. The friend reluctantly squeezed out that it was a time. The man lowered his eyes and saw that Jin Lan had held packages that were clearly designed for the woman. Chen Junjia was very strange to see that his friend was indulging in some woman's attention. Chen Zhongjia put his hand on his friend's shoulder and assured that he would not bother him and left. But later he stopped sharply and asked where he drove Yao. Jin Lan, not hiding, said that the girl was transported to the hotel. The man was a little angry because he asked to take Yao home. Then the man wondered in which the hotel his niece stopped. Chen Junjia pulled out his phone and was going to call the niece. The man lowered his gaze, waiting for clarification of the relationship. But fortunately, Yao did not lift the phone, and Chen Zhongjia decided that she was still asleep and was about to go to work. Suddenly, seeing the open door, Yao Yao even lifting her head, she said that her uncle had just been and she was scared. Also, the girl accused her husband that he had broken her bra. When Yao raised her gaze, she was shocked. Her uncle was in front of her, who was not in a smaller shock. A complete silence prevailed for a few minutes. Yao Yao was thought that Jin Lan was simply put in front of her uncle. She did not come up with anything better than to flee. But the formidable uncle clapped the girl by the hand. Yao Yao was very ashamed. She did not expect her uncle caught them with Jin Lan on hot. After a while, 3 young people were sitting at the table. The very uncomfortable atmosphere prevailed. Jin Lan was waiting for any excuses from young people. Chen Junjia quite seriously said that he was going to marry Yao Yao. The man was convinced that his friend was a responsible man, so he was not going to hide in the bush. Jin Lan confessed that Yao has long liked. Jin Lan quickly came up with a cunning plan in his head. He said that the girl twisted the novel with Jin Jani, only that he would be doomed. The confused Chen Jun Lan argued that Yao Jiao had gone for 3 years. He had no idea how young people could fall in love with each other. Jin Lan said that it all happened through video, phone calls, and messengers. The man also said that Yao Jiao wanted to hide their relationship, so they were silent. The girl looked nervously at Jin Lana. In the air, a tense atmosphere prevailed. The situation was gaining unexpected revolutions. Chen Junlan demanded explanations from the niece and asked why she was silent for so much time. Yao Yao decided to strike the man in response. The girl told her uncle that she was only 17, and Jin Lan was stubbornly persecuted for 3 years. Yao Yao said that her husband is 9 than her for 9 years, and she first considered him a strange uncle. She also added that being young and in the prime of his strength, she could not look at the mature man. Yao Yao also added that Jin Lan was pursuing her and was very annoying. Also, the girl, hugging her husband, shared that he gave her a huge amount of design bags to break her will. Jiao Yao explained to her uncle that she was scared of such persistent persecution, so after the entrance examinations they met. The girl did not tell everything about her uncle, fearing his reaction to the fact that her elect is quite older. Telling a fictional story, Yao looked at Janlana. Chen Zhengji realized what his friend had a terrible nature. The man was not even surprised that when he asked a friend to become a teacher for Yao, he immediately agreed. Junjia Jiajia jumped the phone and he had to be excommunicated to the bureau. The man wanted to talk about young people's affairs a little later. Yao Jiao said goodbye to her uncle, asking her not to expel her. When the man left, Yao exhaled with relief because the danger passed. Jin Lan stretched out bags. There was everything necessary that the girl asked. Yao Yao Nayakyak was surprised to see the dress on the tag. She even thought that her husband had extensive experience in it. Having examined the dress, Yao Yao did not appreciate the old man, saying she was terrible. The man explained that he bought everything his assistant and promised the next time to personally choose everything. The girl believed that Jin Lan was guilty of everything, because it all began with the fact that he broke her dress. The man lowered his head and confessed that such a case had happened, as the dress was difficult to remove. Yao Yao did not want to listen to excuses, because she thought it was no reason to tear her clothes. The girl insisted that the man confess, because he was just impressed with her love with her. Jin Lan promised to be careful next time. Yao Skusa looked at her husband and decided that he had conceived something. Jin Lan dared to raise the girl's leg and wanted to process her wound. Yao Yao snatched an antiseptic from her husband's hands and said he was quite skilled and wondered if he had many of these girls. Jin Lan lowered his head, regretting the night spent together. Yao Jiao dressed and gathered home. The man suggested to bring her, but she persistently refused, saying that she was catching the car. The man could not understand that the girl was doing because she behaved strangely. At first, she attacked him, though she was drunk, and then became cold enough. Going proudly behind the door, the girl seemed to twist. In her eyes were tears. Yao Yao and I couldn't think that the man would prove to be so dissatisfied, though he seemed quite decent. Thinking well, the girl decided that it was necessary to let go of the situation that happened, because time ago no longer return. Yao Yao left the hotel and caught a taxi. Without waiting for the right moment, the girl decided to write in a group chat with her girlfriends and tell them that she spent the night with Jin Lan. The girls immediately threw Yao Yao with all kinds of questions. The girlfriends could not believe that Yao Yao spent the night with the man she told them. The girls were convinced that the night of young people was hot. But Yao was in a hurry to say that her husband did nothing. In fact, Yao Yao remembered the details of that night, but decided to spoil Jin Lan's reputation. She complained to the girls immediately that there was nothing to be proud of the man below her belt. Yao Yao knew well that girls were the best gossip at school. She was pleased with the information that her girlfriends would spread the gossip faster than the wind. It was a little revenge of the girl. Yao Yao went to a hotel where she had a booked room. She was going to quickly gather her things and go, because she did not want to grow water in the future. Suddenly, someone knocked into the room and she was reluctant to go to the door. Yao Yao did not order the cleaning of the room, but decided to open the door and inform the employees that she was collecting her things. To the great surprise of the girl, it was not a maid, but Yun Shi. The girl came as if to laugh. She laughed at the top and said that the young lady from the Jang family returned home, but was not allowed home. Yuni also added that Bidalak Yao was forced to live in a hotel, not at home. Nervous Yao wanted the girl to leave her eyes as soon as possible. She turned and went on to collect her things, and asked not to detain her. Yunshi called the girl with an obscene word, and attacked her and accusations that she had humiliated her. Yao looked at the girl who was angry, and calmly asked why she did not tell her about it at the restaurant. Yao Yao thought that the girl liked Janjan very much, because she appealed to a defenseless sheep. Yunshi noticed that Yao Yao had clearly merged, and it pleased her. She proudly said that Janjan is now her boyfriend. Yunshi began to reproach the girl that it was not necessary to blame Janjin of the fact that their relationship had gone to the neutralist. UCC claimed that her husband fell in love. She also threatened Yao that if she continues to create problems, only she will prove that she is worthless. Yao Yao did not want to humiliate herself, and stated that if the charm is equalized with flirtatiousness, they were completely uneven. Yao Yao proudly stated that the girl is so slutted that it is heard for a kilometer. Yunxi did not want to listen to the girl's images and swung to hit her. Yao's lapided her hand and struck the girl in the same place as last time. Youngxi was so angry that she wanted to kill Yao. Yunxi again swung to hit Yao Yao, but the girl again flashed her by her hand. Yunxi could not understand where the rival came so much. Yao Yao hit Yunxi, but fell out to the ground. Angry Junxi wanted to call the police immediately, so that Yao would be planted for playing. Yao Yao looked at the girl with a mockery, but was not against the arrival of the police. On the contrary, she wanted to show everyone photos and videos how Junxi seduced her boyfriend for the role of her mistress. Yao Yao became wondering what all the parents of the family would say. Meanwhile, the frightened Junxi called her mother and asked her help, and told her that she had been beaten and she was flowing with blood. Yao glanced at Yunxi, considering her a girl of slight behavior. It was absurd not to be able to solve the question itself and connect the relatives. Yunxi threatened the girl that she would soon sit down. The relaxed Yao began to look among the contacts who would call her. Yao called her uncle and asked him to organize a lawyer in the Shantian hotel. The man was ashamed and asked how serious the matter. Yao Yao reassured the man that nothing wrong happened. The girl also added that she was bitten by a dog and the owner was too aggressive and without a lawyer could not do. Yunxi wondered why the girl did not ask her boyfriend. Yao smiled and explained that he was at work, and she did not want to interfere with him. In addition, the girl believed that it would be inconvenient to talk about such topics with him, so she decided that a lawyer would help her. The girls were tickets because they complained to each other. Yao wanted to compare whose support would be better. The girl calmly pulled out of the powder handbag and began to put herself. Soon, Junxi's mother rushed to her daughter. She was very frightened, and the maid said she was cleaning in the next room and suddenly heard a strange noise. The woman also added to Mrs. Bo and another lady. At that moment, the lady was lying on the floor, and the woman thought they were trying to kill her. The room began in the room. The workers were dissatisfied with the act of Yao. Also, Junxi complained to her brother who went by and wanted to talk to Yao Yao, but the girl brazenly started offending her and hit her. Yunxi showed her brother her wounds. The girl also noted that if no one came to noise, she could have been killed. The girl looked at her brother with her brother and hoped for his help. Yao Yao intervened in the conversation, saying that many people were walking at the hotel, but for some reason she did not beat anyone. Yao Yao hinted that she was probably not the reason, and the girl came to her room. Hotel staff looked at the girls. They still acknowledged that Yao Yao's words were the fate of truth. Yunxi leaned her mother and explained to her that Yao beat her and was pretending to be innocent. Yao Yao did not want to hide anything and decided to open the true face of Yunxi. The girl frankly told that it was Junie who pretended to be innocent. Going into the hotel room, Junxi began to call Yao Yao with obscene words, but suddenly publicly became a victim. The woman, hugging her daughter, looked at Yao and explained that they were civilized people and asked to explain the situation. Having gained courage, Yao Yao asked the hotel manager to ask if there was a rule at the hotel, according to which, while the guest was at the hotel, it was forbidden to enter the hotel in his room without permission. The manager agreed with the statement of Yao Yao, reporting that the hotel has strict rules. Yao Yao explained that Mrs. Bo Brown into her in room with images. The girl also asked if she could declare her for penetration. Then Yao Yao wanted to talk about beating. Since Mrs. Bo declared that the girl offended her and beat her, Yao Yao very much wanted her to show any evidence. According to Yao Yao, Junxi was quite stupid, believing that people would believe her and her word. Yao Yao lifted her dress, showing a wounded leg. Although the wound was still early, no one knew it. Yunxi began to prove hysterically that she had not beat anyone. Yao Yao explained that she was just protected, and so she hit the girl in response. Yao Yao claimed that they were both injured, but having lost, Yunxi called her parents. According to the girl, Junxi behaved like a small child. Jin Lan silently watched the situation. He was shocked how much Yao was confident in himself that he didn't even need to interfere. Yao Yao pulled out her phone and suggested that the audience look at photos and videos that would be known for the reason why Miss Bo gnawed with her. Without shy, she showed all the candid photos that were Junxi and Janjan. Yao tried to convince others that they did not even imagine the entire scale of their war. The nervous Uni Salomsi pulled the phone out of the hands of Yao and threw it to the ground. Then the girl began to call Yao obscenely. All present as if they froze in place because Uni from a sweet and weeping girl turned into a real beast. Yao Yao did not expect that the girl would behave so stupid. Jin Lan asked his subordinate to remove extra from the room. The man also asked all those present to leave the room. Jin Lan proposed to leave the situation in secret. The man came to the opinion that otherwise the life of the daughter of the family would be able to follow. Jin Lan understood that no one wanted it. The woman thanked her son for establishing justice. The man hugged his mother, assuring that they were a family. The woman approached Yao and explained that she, just like everyone, she just learned about the similar. She asked the girl not to worry and promised to deal with this issue as soon as possible. Yao decided to show a good one and assured the woman that nothing was needed. The girl explained that in any case, she parted with the boy, and the lady only wanted to continue to play dolls. Yao Yao told the woman that her former was worthless, but Mrs. Bo picked up her garbage. The girl considered young people the perfect couple, because they wore each other. The woman left the situation on her son, and she gathered with her daughter in the hospital. Yao looked at Jin Lana, but asked how he was about to bribe her. The man just laughed. Yao Yao hinted to her husband that her phone was broken and there was no card. The girl boldly reached out to her husband, hinting that if he gives enough money, she would consider removing these nasty photos. Yao Yao couldn't understand where the man looked. She even thought that Jin Lan had conceived something. The man looked at the girl's hand and reminded that she kept him that hand last night and did not want to let go. Yao Yao literally demanded that Jin Dwell fell silent. The man just laughed in response. The girl did not like the reaction of the man and his ridicule. Jin Lan grabbed the girl by his hand and looked gently at her. Yao Yao exclaimed the full name of the man, and he wanted it to repeat it again. Jin Lan recalled that once, when he was her teacher, she called him a gentle brother Jin Lan. Once a man was a girl teacher, and she fell in love with him at first sight. But then she had no idea that Jin Lan helped her only for her uncle's request. The man to Yao did not feel any personal feelings. Jin Lania seemed to be offended by the girl because he did not support her during the altercation from Junie. In small steps, the man began to get closer to Yao Yao, and she was reflexively back. Having reached the support, the girl sat on the sofa. Then the man bent over her and reminded that night she said that she wanted the night of love and wanted to be his girlfriend. Jin Lan wanted to tell something else, but the girl interrupted him. Yao Yao explained to her husband that she was drunk enough. Suddenly, Lana's phone rolled up, the uncle of the girl who was looking for her. Jin Lan stretched out Yao's phone. Taking the phone, Yao Jiao wondered where her lawyer and why he didn't come. As it turned out, the uncle called Jin Lana and asked to deal with everyone. The girl thought that it was her uncle who called Jin Lana. So it was. Chen Zhengjush did not see anything wrong with that, and assured that her boyfriend was the best lawyer. According to Yao Yao, Jin Lan was a very bad lawyer because she solved her problems by herself. Uncle was a little angry and recalled that the niece would not forget to go to the hospital and make vaccinations from rabies. The man told him that he had a meeting, and in the evening he planned to meet with Jin Lan. Yao Yao proudly told that she had plans. Uncle reported that the girl's guy had already agreed, and her grandfather was already aware of everything. Yao Yao could not understand when his uncle had time, because even the rockets did not fly so quickly. Putting the phone, Yao Jiao looked at her husband. Jin Lan smiled and said he could not give up a free dinner. Jin Lan has not seen his grandfather for a long time and wanted to visit him. Yao Yao warned her husband so that he would not be fooling at her grandfather, and demanded that she not finish the university yet, so it is early to talk about marriage. Jin Laja wondered what it would be. Yao Jiao looked at her husband, saying that they would then report that they did not come together and parted. In this case, uncle and grandfather will not have any suspicion. Jin Lan was seriously tuned to marry, and it turned out that Yao Yao did not want it at all. She thought for some reason that her husband was shaking her boyfriend. Yao Yao believed that one night, even on a drunken head, meant nothing at all. It was just to support the image. Jin Lan did not understand what he had to do with. The girl looked at her husband from the forehead, because it was he who took away her chastity. The man reported that they were in equal conditions, because in an intimate relationship with the girl, he was also the first time. Yao was surprised to look at her husband, because Jin Lan was one of the biggest beauties of the capital, and the girl did not have a reason that he was chaste until last night. The man was frozen and suggested going to buy a gift towards, and at the same time a mobile phone. But Yao Yao thought only about one thing, that the man was still chaste. Subsequently, the young people left the room and the assistant man was waiting for them. To the great surprise of Yao, Xiao Li appealed to her Mrs. Bo. She considered it some misunderstanding, but humbly gave the things that the man asked. Xiao Li explained that he could not afford Mr. Bobo Boy things herself. Yao Yao asked Jin Lana so he would not speak the fools of his subordinates. The girl felt quite uncomfortable. Jin Lan calmly said that he did not tell anyone anything, just his subordinates were quite observant. Yao Yao realized that when he went to his grandfather, it would no longer be a lie. The girl felt quite uncomfortable because Jin Lan behaved as if he had everything under control. He seemed confident, balanced, and serious. Yao Yao was proudly folded forward, adjusting her husband, as if she were the main one. Jin Lanu thought that the girl wanted to control everything, and it pleased him. Young people approached the residential complex fruit garden in which the Chen family lived. Jin Lan had full packages in his hands. These were uncle cigars and gifts for grandparents. The girl did not want to look frivolous, so she asked her husband to calculate the entire amount of expenses so that she could pay later. Yao Yao considered it only a game, and she was ready to compensate for the man all the expenses. Although the man had enough money, but the girl did not want to use them. She pulled out her phone and asked Jin Lana to add it. Once a girl became angry with her husband and added it to blacklist so she did not have his contact. Young people exchanged phone numbers. Yao Yao specifically recorded the man's Sutula dog. Looking at the photo of her husband, Yao Yao said that he came out just awful. The man, in his turn, praised the photo of the girl, saying that she was perfectly in the photo. Jin Lan immediately began to view the girl's page. Yao Yao of course liked it, but she tried not to give a look and rushed it. On the way, Jin Lan continued to flip through the girl's page. She even seemed to her husband that she didn't like her photos. Yao Jiao began to click her teeth. The man caringly, as if a real gentleman, removed his jacket and threw him a girl on his back. In the evenings it was cool, so he did not want Yao Jiao to get cold. Yao Yao seemed that the man was behaving very gently. As it turned out, the grandfather watched them, and the girl was already naked. A few minutes later, the young people stood next to their grandfather. The grandfather did not believe that Yao Yao managed to seduce her husband, but he saw which young people were happy and understood everything. His doubts as if he had taken his hand. Yao Yao's confessed to herself that she thought of unnecessary girl had a feeling that the night would not be easy. Grandpa invited young people to go to the house as soon as possible. Chen Zhuzhia was already in the house and poured hot coffee to the guests. Grandpa hurried to cook dinner so that Jin Lan would learn all the power of Chen's family. Chen Zhongjia watched with curiosity, because he recently called his grandfather a chief or old, and he called his grandfather that time, and it was a lot of surprised. Chen Zhongjia found for himself that he had not noticed what Zhan Duel is impressive. Jin Lan behaved surprisingly strangely, and even wanted to call Cheno Zhou Hahi uncle. It's time for dinner. There was a lot of delicious and nutritious food on the table. My grandfather told that he felt happy and even wanted to get a bottle of good expensive wine to celebrate. Yao Yao immediately refused a drink because in the morning she had to go to the airport to get back to study. The girl felt that he would never even be able to touch alcohol again. Yao Yao felt a little upset because it reminded her of a terrible mistake. My grandfather reminded that there would be a public holiday soon, and it is pointless to make a teaching. Grandpa came to full seriousness that young people had very little time for joint meetings. He hinted that they could not miss this opportunity. As it is called, Jin Lan agreed with the words of his grandfather. Yao Yao nervously digs a man on his leg. Yao Yao told Grandpa that she had returned secretly, and her aunt was not aware that she had been searing her studies. The grandfather was convinced that the man would help the girl. He also wanted to take advantage of the holiday, for two families to meet and discuss the wedding. Yao Yao has tensed somewhat. She told her grandfather that she was only 20 and she was still a child who has not completed her studies. The girl first wanted to get a diploma and then think about marriage. But the persistent grandfather had a different opinion. He believed that Jin Lan was far from young and therefore could not be pulled. The girl lowered her head and firmly said that she was not ready to marry. She also asked her not to hurry. The grandfather was upset immediately. His gaze became sad and cheerful. He did not want to interfere with young people and do something against their will. There was an awkward silence in the room. To fill the void somehow, Yao Yao suggested that Grandpa give her appetizing ribs. Grandpa asked the girl to put the ribs as well as Jin Lan. While Yao spread delicious food on plates, men had improved the mood. The grandfather noted that young people had a very warm and gentle relationship. He was fascinated by the lovers cared for each other. Over time, a little drunk and relaxed men moved to the living room. They included the TV loudly and continued their fun. Yao Yao lifted her gaze on the clock hanging on the wall. The hour was already late, and Yao Yao began to hurry everyone. But men seemed to be so passionate about their conversation that they did not even hear anything. Yao Zhao took her mobile phone. The girlfriend persuaded her not to stay and go home for a long time. Meanwhile, rain began to fall outside. Even a yellow warning of heavy pouring rain, which was supposed to be at night, came. The worried grandfather did not want young people to go in such dangerous weather by car. He suggested staying overnight. The grandfather did not see any problem because Jin Lan was Yao's boyfriend, especially in the room was cleaned. Yao did not know what to say, and she was the first thing she thought. She said that Lana had no variable clothes in Jin. Grandpa did not see the problem in this and suggested borrowing his clean clothes. Yao Yao was very upset because his grandfather finally decided, and it was very difficult to convince him. But fortunately, Jin Lan intervened in the conversation and said he was not needed. Yao Yao was glad that her husband finally supported her opinion. When Jin Lan said that he had clothes and a towel in his car, Yao Yao was disappointed in her husband. The grandfather, on the contrary, was glad and called Jin Laja in his office. Grandpa asked Jin Lana's thought because Yao was against the wedding. Jin Lan respected the girl's opinion, realizing that she is really too young. Grandpa was glad that the man was of such an opinion. Grandpa really knew the reason why Yao Yao was in no hurry to marry. He held a folder with the documents conveyed by Jin Lan. The grandfather was convinced that the girl was in no hurry to marry because of her parents' relationship. Yao's father once started a mistress, and the mother could not stand it and got into the hospital. In the end, the woman committed suicide, jumping from the roof. Jin Lan was a girl's boyfriend, and his grandfather decided to tell him about it. After these horrific events, Yao suffered from schizophrenia, and the doctor asked to protect her health. Meanwhile, Yao called her aunt and explained that her grandfather asked her to stay on the holiday and warned that she would not be a few more days. As it turned out, her aunt bought a lot of things and wanted the girl to take them with her. Yao Zhao said goodbye to her aunt, because my grandfather asked to go to bed. Since it was too late, everyone went to the rooms. Yao Yao seemed that her grandfather went to the room to check if she had not escaped. Yao Yao stayed with Jin Lana alone. The girl asked her husband to go to bed on the sofa. But Jin Lan refused, believing that the sofa was too small, and he would not be able to fall asleep there. In this case, the girl offered her husband to sleep directly on the floor. Jin Lan explained that he would be inconvenient. Yao Yao began to be nervous. The man offered to sleep together one bed, promising that he would not touch her. The proud Yao refused and decided to go to bed on the sofa. She froze and ran into a shower. The man admired the girl. She behaved in the same way as 3 years ago, when he had annoyed her, and she flushed. Leaving her shower, Yao Yao realized that she forgot about pajamas, the clothes in which she was wet and the girl could not wear it. Yao Zhao Kartal himself, because she was constantly in trouble because of Jin Lania. Sliding her head at the door, Yao called her husband and asked him to bring pajamas lying in the closet. But there was a silence in response. The girl thought that the man went to talk to her uncle. Yao decided that there was no one in the room and she went on pajamas. Suddenly, the man sharply opened the door to the room. The girl was scared of surprise. Yao Zhao unnecessarily opened the cabinet and got her pajamas instantly. She looked vigorously at the man who was staring at her. At that time, Jin Lan smiled cute. When Yao Zhao dressed, she asked her husband to look like nothing to see. The girl was going to sleep and hoped that Jin did not interfere with her. Yao wanted to lay a blanket, but found that she was lying too high. Jin Lan was kindly approached and wanted to help the girl get her. Yao Yao is dissatisfied with the man not approaching her so close. Yao Yao felt quite tense. The blanket was still on the closet. The girl smiled and Soap asked Jin Lania to help her. When the blanket was already on the bed, the girl got the underwriter. Unfortunately, Yao Zhao could not wear a blanket on a blanket at all, and it annoyed it. She asked Lania's help in Jin. The man tried to help the girl, but he did not work too much. Meanwhile, Jin Laja's phone was turned on, and Sen Young Jia was connected. In the tube, a man heard strange words, and he thought that young people were doing love. The words who spoke Jin Lan and Yao Yao struck Junjaju. The man was convinced that young people in bed very warm and sensual relationships. The blanket was finally filled. Yao Zhao considered a man and couldn't understand why he was so beautiful. Jin Lan, laughing, told Yao Yao who found the instruction, and so he coped with the task. Yao Yao agreed that half of the merit was Jin Lania. The man smiled and said he was pleased to cooperate. The girl reminded her husband that she was already late and rushed him to the shower. When Jin Lan went into the shower, Yao Yao quarreled herself for just dressing the underwriting, and she imagined that they were an outstarted family couple. When the man came out of his shower, it seemed to him that the girl had already slept. Yao Yao still went to sleep on the sofa, not in bed. Jin Lan gently touched the girl and she, after frightening, began to shout. The man closed his mouth with his own hand, asking not to shout. Jin Lan stretched out the girl's ointment, which she never used. Yao Yao was too sleepy and did not want to smear the wounds. The man was persistent and assured that in this case he would do everything himself. Yao Yao took a tube out of her husband's hand and looked at him with distrust. Jin Lan asked the girl that she would not fool and go to bed. Since the man was a guest, he could not allow the hostess of the apartment to sleep on the couch. Yao Yao was indignant because recently the man claimed that the sofa was too small. Jin Lan asked the girl to agree as soon as possible until he changed his mind. The girl grabbed her blanket and quickly went to bed. There, she was able to relax on a huge bed and feel comfortable. As warned, the weather was really terrible. Thunder and lightning woke up the girl. She was frightened and jumped from the strong noise from the street. Yao yawned her husband and asked if he had not slept. Jin Lan, being a little dissatisfied, muttered that the girl spinned and noised so he could not fall asleep normally. Yao Yao was thought that a man could not fall asleep because he slept in a new place. The girl took the book and asked her husband to read her. Jin Lan reluctantly turned his gaze from a book to a girl. Yao Zhao understood and took her book back. She wanted to go back to bed, but the man grabbed her hand. He looked gently at her and wondered if she could not really fall asleep because of the noise that heard from the street. Jin Lan agreed to read the book. When a man pulled his knowledge of Yao in English, she always lost his head from his voice. The girl even suggested a little at that time. Jin Lan asked Yao Yao to go to bed. He looked gently at her and covered her. Conveniently reset, the man began to read. The girl listened interested in the book, but soon fell asleep sweetly. Jin Lan, admiring a girl, wished her a good night and kissed her cheeks gently. Then he went to bed on an awkward sofa. The girl fell asleep so firmly that she woke up in the morning. Taking her phone, Yao Zhao saw a lot of unread messages there. All messages were written by her former, this Zhan. In her reports, the man reproached the girl for attacked by Jun Shi and considered her very vindictive. The morning in Yao Yao began not very nice. She regretted she had forgotten her husband on a blacklist, and she corrected it. With surprise, the girl saw that the arrogant man decided to call her. Yao Yao still lifted the phone, but she did not have a great desire to talk. Zhan assured the girl that they needed to talk. Instead, Yao asked her husband not to call her no longer and leave alone. She had nothing to talk about with the former. The crazy man explained that he was at the door of the house. The angry Yao asked the man to stand still and intended to go down to him to put the final point. Yao Yao brought himself up and went down. Near the entrance, the girl saw the former who was waiting for her, leaning against the car. Yao Yao had no idea that she wanted to tell her a man because it was quite an early hour. When Yao came closer to her husband, he immediately took off his glasses and looked closely at her. The girl did not understand why she had previously considered a former handsome man. She thought that she was blind. Yao recalled how Jin Laja and Zhan Jin saw for the first time in the same clothes. The girl then seemed that men were like a silhouette. Yao Kartala himself who told her husband yes. As a result, many mistakes were made. After the girl has not seen the former for a long time, she realized that they did not look like her Lana as she thought before. Zhan immediately began to blame Yao Yao of saying something to Junshi, as a result of which the girl threw it. The man was convinced that it was a matter of Yao's hands. In response, Yao was just laughing. Zhan himself threw her away, and she laughed to cry that he was thrown by a new girl. Yao Yao repeated to her husband that she had never regret her decisions. The girl explained that she would never have become a mistress who destroyed other people's relationships like Junshi. Yao Zhao assured that their problems were not interested in her problems, and she had nothing to do with them. The man stood on his own and claimed that Yao Yao had destroyed everything. Zhan from anger told the girl that he was forced to meet her. The man was convinced that Yao Yao was not a beauty and could not like anyone. The girl was shocked from heard. The nervous man asked to break away from him and began to call Yao in every possible way. To warm up the situation, the man said that Junshi was much more beautiful and softer than her. Yao Yao did not want to listen to the image from her husband and turned to go away. But the man did not want to let the girl just let go and grabbed her hand. Yao Yao demanded that Jan would release her immediately. The man thought that he would not hear the truth unless he removes the girl from himself. Angry Jana began to shake the girl and pushed her into her back. Fortunately, Jin Lan turned out to be near Yao Yao. The girl looked at her husband while in his arms. He carefully wondered if Yao was not killed. Yao Jiao almost lost her head when Jin's deck was firmly pressed. Jian was surprised by such a random meeting with Jin Lan and asked how he found himself here. Jin Lan, smiling, said he had passed by and saw Mr. This and his ex-girl quarreled. Yao Yao was glad that the man came in time and stood up for her. Yao Yao hid behind Jin Lana's strong back. The man wondered if Yuni knew about his act. Jan began to justify that he did not connect him with Yao, and the man understood everything wrong. Jin Lan explained that he did not need justifications and asked not to call him his brother because they were not relatives. Jan Zan lacrimally began to convince a man that he was sincere and frank with Junshi, and I would like to live with the girl a whole life. Jin Lan suggested that he personally go to Yunshi and find out the reason for the termination of their relationship. Jan was understanding with the words of her husband and promised to talk to Junshi personally. He sincerely thanked Mr. Bo hid from the eyes of young people. Yao Yao Carrillo know why Junshi dispersed with her husband. Jin's deck shrugged because he also had no idea what the reason. Yao Yao was grateful to Jin Lanya that he was so skillfully and censorship dealt with her husband. After thinking, the girl looked at Jin Lana and wondered why he went down. Still, Yao believed that the man almost overdo it, because it would be a little more, and he would reveal all the secret. Yao Jiao asked Jin Laja to play scenes in front of her grandfather and uncle, but not before strangers. The man looked closely at the girl and left. Yao hurried after him. The girl wondered what her husband meant. Jian Lan reminded Yao Yao that she had slammed everyone that a friend came to her, and then Yao realized that she would be revealed if she returns with empty hands. Yao thanked her husband and even praised him that he was a worthy place of the CEO. The fact that the girl missed her ears and forgot for a long time, Jin Lan remembered well. The girl, for a short time, decided to buy half a watermelon. Grandpa was quite surprised by such an unexpected and strange gift. Yao Yao told Grandpa that a friend brought him from his city specifically for her. Yao Yao assured her grandfather that watermelon had to be very sweet. The grandfather looked at the watermelon with surprise, because the same could be bought in the neighboring area. But he decided to remain silent. Grandpa asked Junjia to book a flight to the 7th number. Yao Yao was grateful and rejoiced that she would spend several days with his grandfather. Grandpa asked his granddaughter to behave decently so that Jin Lana would not have to blush. Yao Yao proudly lifted her head and said that the man decided to run behind her, especially for 9 years and suitable for his uncle. Suddenly, Jin Lan came into the room and Yao Yao pretended not to say anything. Chen Junuji did not like what his niece said. He was disgusting to look, because when a man came in, he pretended to be innocent. Jin Lan told everyone that he needed to go to the company and asked Yao Yao to behave well. He put his hand on the girl's head and stirred her hair. The girl asked to stop. The man recalled that Yao herself wanted to play a loving couple in front of her uncle and grandfather. Then Jin Lan gently kissed the girl in his forehead and asked him to write. The men lowered their heads not to witness such a romantic situation. The girl asked Jin Lana finally to go. When the man came out of the door, the correspondence began. Yao Yao asked Jin Lana not to bend the stick because she almost burned. The man, in turn, warned that the girl was alert next time. Yao Yao told Grandpa that he was going to the room. The girl realized that recognizing mistakes, well, she also reported that he would not be there next time and asked her husband not to appear in the near future, saying that he was busy. Yao Jiao planned to find a way to tell you that they had parted. The girl asked to write how much she was guilty of gifts and watermelon. Jin Lan was embarrassed by the girl's behavior because she not only thanked him, also wanted to return everything. The man did not answer the questions of Yao for a long time. Thinking a little, Jin Lan asked first to pay off his debt for gifts. The word debt was embarrassed by the girl. Suddenly, Yao called Yunshi's mom. She invited the girl to dinner as an apology. Yao Yao, after a short pause, politely agreed. She was curious that her mother and her daughter were conceived. The evening came, and the girl went to the invited dinner. the woman tried to be kind and friendly. She also wondered that Yao would drink and offered delicious red wine and fresh juice. Yao Jiao asked only boiled clean water. Yun Shi was not too friendly at the time. The girl looked evil and angry. The woman tried to reassure her daughter in every possible way. The woman acknowledged that her daughter was completely guilty of the recent incident and immediately reported that Jun Shi had parted with her husband. The woman reminded the girls that not so long ago they were classmates and believed that she did not cost spoiling relationships through her husband. The woman persistently asked Jun Shi to apologize to Yao. Yun Shi barely squeezed her apology and acknowledged that she was not right. If the photos were suffered, it would be upgraded to the family because my grandfather would be very angry. Yun Shi realized that after the death of their father with their mother, they did not put anything in the family, and it was impossible to allow this case to spoil everything. The girl was well aware that some man did not equal the wealth and glory of the family. Yao Jiao asked Ms. Bo not to apologize because she perceived this situation as a dog's bite. The girl, as if she had caught her several times, and calmed down because the animal could not be buried forever. Yao Yao asked Yun Shi at the next meeting, pretending that they are not familiar. For the girl, Jun Shi and Zhan were nasty. Yao looked at the girl with disgust and explained that she was looking at them as unnecessary. Yun Shi became very aggressive because she was offended by the girl's words. She also asked not to bend the stick. The woman tried to stop her daughter and reminded them of their previous conversation. The woman explained that Jun Shi had only parted with Mr. C.E. and was influenced by strong emotions. Mrs. Bo opened the box in which the bracelet was lying and politely said that it had chosen June herself in apology. Yao Jiao assured the woman that the gift is too expensive. Ms. Bo asked to do without formalities and allowed her to call her aunt. She believed that no matter how prickly it was 20 Yao, she would not be able to resist before the decoration. At the moment when the woman wearing a bracelet in the girl's hand, she asked to delete all the photos and videos. Yao Jiao asked a woman whether she was referring to intimate photos and home videos sent by Jun Shi. The woman is assured Yao that if she removes all the photos and videos, then any request will be performed. Yao Yao was not mindful of attention to her face and promised that no photos and videos would drain. The woman thanked politely. Yun Shi was very angry and even thought that the girl was tight because her mother asked to remove all the provocations, and she did not hear her. In response, Yao Yao said that in the 9th grade, she was chosen by the host of the dance group, which was dedicated to the anniversary. And the day before the performance, Yun Shi cut her dance suit with scissors and became a host of the dancer. Yao Yao also said that at the graduation exam of the same year, Jun Xiying, as a class representative, took her work in English and was specially broken, as a result of which she received 0 points. It was not the end. Yao added that in the 10th grade, at the evening training, Yun Shi asked the bandits to stop her in the side, and if the uncle did not take Yao Yao then, she would be a star of news. Yun Shi fell from the place and was overwhelmed by the desire to kill the girl. She asked Yao Yao to silence and stop grinding nonsense. The woman tried to calm her daughter again. Yao Yao seemed to feel relaxed. She was wondering why Jun Shi was so worried because she said she did not. Yao Yao remembered the school past and remembered it at a good moment. Yao Jiao struck Jun Shi that the fact that she changed her last name and wearing branded things did not cross her horrible past. Yao Yao explained that she wanted to keep at least some photos to be safe, because the girl did not reject that Junie could try to take revenge again. Yao Yao asked the woman to understand her. As Junie made a promise, because she sincerely hoped that they could unanimously come to resolve this issue. Yao Yao reluctantly agreed to remove the entire compromise and hurried to leave. According to Yun Shi, the courtesy of the mother was inappropriate, because it was easier to hire a person who would break the girl's phone and remove everything. Yun Shi was a hard time asking her mom to listen to her thoughts. Yao Yao, heading home, heard a noise, and she thought that they had guests at home. Opening the door, Yao, unexpectedly for herself, she saw Jin Lan next to her grandfather. The grandfather waved his girl with his hand and asked them to approach them as soon as possible, because the man had already waited for her. Yao Yao was embarrassed by the arrival of her husband, because she asked him to no longer bother her. Yao Yao came to the conclusion that Jin did not obey her specifically and considered him a nasty. The girl smiled politely and asked why he did not report his arrival. Jin Lanu liked to play with the girl. Yao Yao became wondering who would win. Close to her husband, the girl thought deeply, and it was slightly alarmed. Yao's brother, who was in the room, enjoying the pot of hot tea, decided to go on the top to read the book. The man did not want to watch the sweet couple flirting. He just wanted to rest quietly. But his grandfather did not like the opinion of the man at all, and he slammed his stick on the floor. My grandfather believed that the place below was enough, and it is not necessary to climb up. Chen Zhongjia looked closely at his father and hinted that he also needed to go out. The grandfather did not slow down and decided to listen to his son. He did not think of anything better than to say that he would rise up to Orchid. A few minutes later, the young people were left alone. Yao very much to know why Jin Lan, contrary to their arrangements, came. The girl was embarrassed by the fact that they were almost declassified. Yao could not understand why her husband did not call her before and warned about her arrival. Jin Panny said to his excuse that he had forgotten his clothes and came specifically to pick him up. Yao did not see the urgent need for a man's arrival because he could ask the driver to pick up things, but not to come personally. Jin Lanu thought that the girl was too nervous and worried. Yao was very afraid that someone could find out that their relationship is Linden. She couldn't even imagine what the consequences could be. Yao knew well that his grandfather was very scary in anger, and his uncle was a boxing of 5 years. Yao confessed that she was experiencing Jin Lana's health. Yao was a granddaughter of Chen's family, and for her, in her opinion, everything would have been a few quarrels. The girl was convinced that the heart of Jin Laja would not withstand the anger of men. Jin Lan looked at the girl with a complete misunderstanding. He had no idea why she decided that he was invertebrate. Yao stood up and asked to take his clothes and go as soon as possible because it was too late. The man confessed that there was another reason he came to. Jin Lan pulled his checks from the shops and stretched them to the girl, explaining that she personally wanted to give him money for gifts. When the girl looked into the check, she almost fainted. The checks had an overwhelming amount, and the girl at his disposal, and there was no such money. She immediately wondered why her husband bought such expensive gifts. Since Jin Lan was a CEO with a good salary, the amount in the check was quite scanty for him. Yao felt broken, because she did not know how to deal with in this situation. The girl had a small problem because she did not know how to give the money to her husband. Yao smiled and asked Jin Lania to sit on the sofa. Then the girl apologized and explained that she had no whole amount. Yao even thought to give everything he had or take a loan in a bank. The man noticed that the girl had been nervous and offered her a solution to the problem. Yao listened to a man carefully. Jin Lan wanted to kiss the girl as a payment, saying that one kiss would cover all the debt. Yao was blushed by shyness but did not know how to do it properly. The man was getting closer and closer to Yao, and her heart began to jump out of her chest. The gentle fingers of Jin Laja touched the girl's lips, and she was increasingly dissolved in it. The lips of young people were too close. The girl could not resist her husband because she wanted too much. Yao confessed to herself and further felt the gentle and trembling feelings to Jin. The romantic atmosphere was interrupted by a grandfather who went into the room quietly. He reported that his aunt was calling. Yao felt a little uncomfortable before his grandfather, because the man was literally lying on her. Yao seemed to have lost her head from such tenderness of her husband because there were minutes left for the kiss. The girl regretted that her grandfather came very timely and spoiled everything. But Yao did not intend to show Jin Lanja her true feelings and pretended to be just a barter in exchange for the amount of the check she herself promised to pay. The grandfather also felt uncomfortable that he interrupted young people with sweet kisses. He apologized and asked to continue. He was pleased that between his granddaughter and the man burned such a strong fire of love. Grandpa hurried to return to his or her orchid pot because he wanted young people to complete what they started. He began to climb the slow steps. Yao felt very crushed, and she didn't want to live at all. Last time his uncle caught them in the same room, and then his grandfather tapped them right on the couch. Yao wanted to close her feelings on a strong castle. The girl, without thinking, began to boil her husband for his act because her grandfather caught them on hot. Jin Lan, on the contrary, was glad that his grandfather saw them almost kissed because it was a proof of their love. Jin Lan tried to convince the girl that the kiss had sense because his grandfather witnessed a romantic situation. Yao was thought that the man specifically arranged everything, and she believed in his feelings. Yao ordered her husband not to try to kiss her no longer and said it was a waste of time. Jin Lan, smiling, looked at the girl and told that barter really suggested. The man again confirmed his words that he did not mind the kiss for 1,000,000 yuan, But Yao Yao was no longer convinced. She, being proud, promised to pay off his debt later and asked not to come home anymore. After finishing her conversation, angry Yao quickly headed the stairs to the top because she did not want to see her husband more. It took a few days, and Jin Lan, continuing to hold back his promise, did not impose on anyone. Yao Yao was even sad that she had no news from her husband, though she was afraid to confess. Yao Jiao, together with his uncle and grandfather in the kitchen, drank fragrant tea. Finally, the long-awaited holiday came, and my grandfather suggested that the girl go on a date with Jin Lan. Grandpa even said that Jin Lan was preparing for departure. Chen Junujia thought that Yao Yao had thrown a man, but his grandfather, unexpectedly, was very angry with her husband and hit him with his stick on his head. My grandfather ordered his son so that he would not compare Yao with his wife, who escaped from him. Grandpa continued to reproach her husband so that he would return Tao better, considering him a failure. My grandfather looked at Yao and asked if they had a good relationship with John Lana. Yao Yao has already written to her husband and warned that she would look like they would have a date tomorrow, though she would actually go to friends. The girl politely asked her to cover and not give it out. Then she turned her gaze to her grandfather and told him that Jin Lan called her on a date where they were going to play the ball. Chen Juzhia did not expect Yao Yao would go, because the dwellings of the tree first called him. Yao Yao began to fuss because the brazen did not warn her what would be with her uncle. Yao Yao did not come up with anything better than asking uncle not to go with them. The girl looked sadly at her uncle and explained that the man had to go soon, and they did not have time for a date. Chen Junjia was upset, but did not look. He decided to overtake his work overtime. But his grandfather tried to convince his son that he had to rest on the weekend and reproached for him to call Tao better. The next morning, Yao was ready to meet friends and called a taxi. On the way, the girl called to Jin Lana and reminded him of their treaty and hardly asked to tell her uncle. In the mirror of the driver Yao, she saw a black car that was constantly driving. The girl asked the driver to go faster, but the man refused because there were many police in the city. Then Yao asked to go closer to a white car that was driving in front. The driver suggested that Yao Yao was from the police and worked undercover. The girl shook her head. Hearing such words, the driver immediately clamped the gas pedal. Yao Yao had no doubt that the black car pursued them. She decided to call Jin Lana and tell him about the situation. The man asked the girl to send her location and was ready to send the driver to her. Jin Lan also asked Yao Jiao not to be afraid or worry because he was quite ready to protect her. Yao Yao was pleasantly impressed with the herd, but sincerely hoped that her husband would really help her. The girl became a little shirt, and she did not understand who the people who pursued her and what their goal was. When Yao came out of the car, it seemed to her for some reason that it was a thing of the hands of Junie. 3 men who came out of a black car looked at the girl. They shook her look so, and Yao Yao was not afraid. One moment the girl began to flee. The men began to run after her and asked to stop. Yao's heart was crazy, but she was not going to stop. The girl was happy that she shouted soft and comfortable shoes. The girl ran for a long time and was very tired. Men also seemed to breathe. Yao Yao continued to run as much as she could. At one point she stopped sharply, and she had already regretted her husband. Yao Yao began to look around, hoping to find near Jin Lana, but there was no man anywhere. Suddenly someone grabbed a hand. She began to shout and hit one of the men with a bag on the rest and got into his eye. The 3 attackers stood next to Yao. The girl decided to calm down and ask what they needed from her. Not thinking for a long time, she immediately asked if they sent them because Jun Shi. The man who got on the eye was still holding on to him. He smiled, realizing that the girl was smart, and to speed up the process immediately asked him to give him his phone. Yao Yao did not want to give up so easy, but wondered how much they were paid for their work. She was ready to pay 10 times the amount. Yao Yao even suggested that men call themselves the amount. The arrogant man almost disagrees the girl's phone. With his greedy look, the man looked at Yao and called the sum of 10 million. But the girl did not have that amount, and immediately said it. One of the men asked Yao Yao to be an obedient girl and voluntarily give them a phone, and in that case they would release it. Men threatened that in case of refusal they would hurt her. Yao tried to convince a man that although they worked for because Junie, the last word was clearly not behind her. The girl assured that if Jin Lan learns about the event, Junie is unlikely to protect them. The men were not aware of all the events, so they thought that Yao Yao is stranger with Jin Lana, and he would never believe her. Since Yunxi was a sister of an influential man, it was obvious that he would believe her. Men, hearing the voice of Jin Lania, turned. He proudly said the girl with him. Yao Yao did not expect Jin Lanja very much suited everyday clothes. She changed the idea of him, considering him a worthy man. One of the men explained Jin Lana that it was a misunderstanding because they were just paid for their work. He asked Jin Laja not to merge. Men spilled over a couple of words, apologized, and wanted to go away. But Jin Lan has not yet finished his conversation and asked the men to stay. He pulled out his cigarette and smoked slowly. Mr. Bo Black car came out of several guards who grabbed the arrogant men and stuffed them into the car. The unhappy men apologized and claimed that there was a mistake. Yao Yao seemed to be frozen in place. She first saw her husband so cold, cruel, and dangerous. Jin Lan approached Yao and asked if the girl was in order. She did not feel too well because her heart was still quite a lot. As it turned out, the gentleman was hiding from above and saw the men for a long time after her. The girl thought that the man did not save her specifically for a long time. Meanwhile, Jin Lan wondered if Yao Yao made a conversation as he asked. The girl coped with the task and even took time to record as much information as possible. Jin Lan smiled, but Io was glad Yao turned out to be insightful. Mr. Bo explained that he did not want anything wrong, just wanted to record the conversation. Yao Yao believed she was lucky because she remained unharmed. But everything could happen, and men could beat her. Jin Lan reassured the girl, explaining that she would have opposed, and he would kill men during that time. Yao Yao little began to move away from the stressful situation. Events that have happened earlier. Jin Lan, along with her friend, watched the three men chasing Yao Yao. Friend Jin Lana recognized Lao Chen's niece in the girl, and decided that men were mocking her. Then, Jin Lan, a little watching the situation, decided to descend the girl for help. His friend thought that Mrs. Jian was too important to him because he descended to help her. However, Yao looked at Jin Lana with gratitude. She still felt a trembling feelings for her husband because he spoke pleasant words and also did pleasant things. It was difficult to resist. Yao Yao forbade herself to collapse more in her feelings because she believed that her husband was very good because of her uncle. The girl tried to convince herself that she thought of herself. The man became wondering why the girl wanted to learn self-defense. Yao Yao worried that the situation that happened could be repeated. Unfortunately, the girl's experience showed that at a critical moment she could only rely on herself. Jin Lana seemed that the girl who stood in front of him had experienced a lot. He was even sorry for Yao. Suddenly, young people came to a friend Jin Lana. He held the ball but asked when they finally went to play. But Jin Lan, it seems, did not hear a friend. He suggested that Yao go with him to the house. Yao did not burn a great desire to go there. The man was outraged that his sister jumped the scoundrels on Yao and suggested that she go to talk, not silently ignore the situation. Since Junichi was a cousin Jin Lana, the girl did not want to worry the elders, and the arrogant men beat Jin Lan. But the man had his daughter. In his opinion, regardless of who you have broken firewood, you must be ordered. Yao Yao was unspeakably grateful to such strong support for her husband that he was even ready to go against his sister. Young people went. Friend Jin Lana, as soon as he could, tried to reach his friend. But Jin Lan, for some reason, stubbornly ignored him. Young people got into the car. Yao Yao had no idea whether the man was able to drive a car. Jin Lan convinced the girl that she would not be worried and trusted him. Mr. Bo gently leaned to the girl, and it seemed to her that he wanted to kiss her. But the man was just fastened by Yao Jiao's safety. They soon came to the house of the family. Jin Lan, entering the house, behaved very harsh. He also asked to call a family doctor and then the third aunt, and because Yunxi. My friend Jin Laja was also with young people. Soon the homeowners went down to the guests. Yunxi was very unadded to Yao's arrival. The girl just smiled, but reminded of their agreement to pretend that they were not familiar. Also, Yao Yao, holding a cup of hot tea in her hand, reproached Junxi, which had a surprisingly bad memory because the agreement was discussed a few days ago. Yunxi was very hostile and began to call Yao. The mother tried to reassure her nervous daughter. Mr. Sui reproached the woman for their poor reception. Ms. Bo apologized immediately and acknowledged that her daughter had overtaken her stick. Mr. Sui also said with disgust that Junxi was already enough adult but uneducated. Mr. Sui reported that he brought Mrs. Zhang, but their hospitality was horrible. The woman pulled her daughter by her hand and asked to apologize immediately. From the room came the head of the family. The man was concerned because everyone was looking for him. Mr. Sui said that he was only the viewer and conveyed the word Jin Lan. The man immediately wondered whether the Dr. Lice brought all the medicines that his grandfather took. Jin Lan loudly informed that he was about to talk about Mrs. Yao. The worried woman asked what happened. Mr. Bo said that the girl was monitored, and as a result, everything went. Yunshi was not joking because she thought that the men she hired were caught. The head of the family did not understand what it all had to do with Yuni. Jin Lan explained that the girls were familiar for a long time. He exhaled deeply and said that a guy had recently appeared in Yun, and after the beginning of the relationship, she already knew that Mrs. Jiang was his former. Miss Bo argued that the issue was resolved, and Yun Shi had already apologized to Yao and dispersed with Mr. Ce. Yun Shi confirmed her mother's words and said that the persecution did not treat her. The elder looked at Mrs. Jiang and wondered if it was true. Yao added that Jun Shi had started to meet with this Jana before they went away. Yao also said that she was convinced that Jun Shi would deny everything about her persecution, so she recorded all the evidence on the voice recorder. The girl, without shy, turned on the record. Yun Shi from herd faded, because the men themselves confessed who hired them. The arrogant attackers even boiled Jin Lana, although when he came personally, they were silent, as if they were fish. Jin Lana's friend was delighted with how much Yao approached his friend. The girl even stopped the recorder at the right moment. The head of the family was not a joke. He demanded that Joan explanations of his act. The girl's mother tried to stir up her daughter and explained that the girl did not leave the house for the last few days. Yun Shi was not going to give up and tried to convince everyone that Yao jumped the right people and played a fictional scene to put her. The girl spoke with all seriousness. Yun Shi started screaming nervously that she could not confess what she did not do. But more, she even started threatening the girl. Jin Lan could not watch obvious injustice and made a phone call. A few minutes later, the man brought one of the attackers to the house in the Bo family. The attacker fell down and asked Mrs. Bo to help him. He began to keep her leg nervously. The man asked to explain to Mrs. Bo that he did not have a personal dislike for Mrs. Jiang because he only did his job. Yun Shi, not waiting for her husband to be caught on hot, contradicted their acquaintance. The girl began to blame her husband that he invented everything. The man confessed that Jun Shi asked to remove her photo from Miss Jiang's phone and instead take some naked photos of Yao. For this, the girl offered 200,000. The man also said that the girl took money and promised to complete the task. Even Yun Shi demanded, in case of resistance, Yao to beat her. The man even wanted to pull out his phone and show evidence of their conversations and correspondence. The head of the family was impressed with the indifference of Mrs. Bo because she was horribly raising her daughter. The woman rushed to her father at her feet and apologized to his daughter's wrong education. The woman made her daughter immediately confess to her grandfather. Yun Shi, without standing, wept and said she had to be wrong and would not happen again. The grandfather was very angry because the heir to the family Bo, Jin Lan, he did not expect that because of Yun Si about him in a bad light would gossip outsiders. Grandpa could not delay how her grandson dared to use the name of the family because to create everything she pleased. Being a mistress, Yun Shi decided to harm Yao. The grandfather did not restrain himself and threw a wooden tummy in Jun Si. Mr. Sui froze in place because this shirt cost 100,000. He personally gave it in that year. The nervous grandfather broke her easily. The man thought that his grandfather clearly needed not a doctor and medicine. Instead, it was necessary to pick up valuable things from the room. Jin Lan waved the guard to take the attacker to the car. The attacker shouted for the lady because they would say something to his defense, because they just took the money but did not touch Yao. It was true. Men did not touch Yao because the guards caught them faster. Jin Lan brought her grandfather hot tea to calm down. The man asked his grandfather not to merge with strangers. My grandfather looked at Jun Shi, believing that such heirs could not be considered relatives. My grandfather looked at his daughter and granddaughter and ordered them to get away from his home. The woman asked her father to think a little more, admitting that her granddaughter had made meanness. Yun Shi lacrimally promised her grandfather that she would not happen again. Jin Lan wondered if Yao became calmer. She asked her husband not to stand close to her because her grandfather watched them. My grandfather regretted that the young lady witnessed and a participant in such a terrible situation. Yao, in turn, explained that she was also uncomfortable to come and disturb her grandfather. The girl sincerely thanked for the fair decision. Grandpa asked Feng Lai to spend a young lady. Feng Lai could not understand why his grandfather sent a girl, not his grandchildren, but him. The man at least expected to drink tea, but no one offered him. Yao Yao and Fei Lai went to the exit. The man started flirting with the girl, and Jin Lana didn't like it. Yao asked her husband to take her to Musan Square. Yao Yao had to meet with his girlfriend, and she was waiting for her all that time. Mr. Suai did not see any obstacles and promised to deliver the girl in comfort. The man decided to ask if Yao Yao was familiar with Jin Lan. Families used to live in the neighborhood, and given its family ties with Lao Shen, Sui was convinced that they had to know each other. Mr. Sui decided to ask if Yao knew the girl Jin Lana. Yao Yao immediately thought that the man was talking about their relationship. On the eve of Jin, Lan called a Feng Lai and told him about a new girl. At first the man did not believe, but still decided that the date of the blind man was successfully. Yao Zhao was surprised that Jin Lan told her friend who was on a date. Feng Lai confirmed that the marriage of a man was planned in detail by a family and passed many stages of the check. At first, Mr. Sui thought that Jin Lana would not like too official daughter, but progress went in full turn because after a date, he had already met her parents. The wedding was expected soon. Yao Yao herd was spoiled. It turned out that Jana was a bride, and at that time he played the feelings of Yao. The girl was in despair because she trusted Jin Lanja, and he was just a dishonest liar. Yao Yao immediately wrote Jin Lanu because she wanted to transfer money to him immediately. Since the man was already a bride, the girl did not want to have anything with him. The next morning, Yao Yao was ready to leave. Having packed her suitcase, she said goodbye to her grandfather. Grandpa ordered Lao Chen to take the girl to the airport. But the man did not want to hurry, because soon he had to arrive Jin Lan. Lao Chen also passed that young people would fly together. Yao Yao could not believe her brother's words, because she knew nothing about it. The grandfather, on the contrary, rejoiced in such a news, because Jin Lan did everything to be near his beloved. According to his grandfather, the man had to be true, as if a dog. Yao Yao, with trembling hands, was looking for a number of Jin Lana and wrote to him why he did not tell anything that he was going on a business trip. The man wanted to inform the girl before, but she did not lift the phone. Yao Yao broke out of anger because Jin Lan made her guilty of everything. The girl tried to reassure herself because the main thing was to get on board the plane. After that, it was possible to end the sweet couple. Yao Yao politely started talking with her husband when my grandfather was around. The girl wondered when she came after her, because there is little time. Jin Dwell ordered the driver to go faster and said that Mrs. Bo wanted to see him as soon as possible. The man was relaxed in the back seat of the car. Meanwhile, Yao Yao was already nervous, and she felt like a stray dog on the sidelines, which was sharply hit on the muzzle. The girl was constantly looking at the watch, but there was no man. Brother reported Yao Yao that her boyfriend was already waiting at the bottom. From the word guy, the girl seemed to throw in the heat, and she asked her to give her a few minutes. Jin Lanja was indifferent girl. Usually it was high, dimensional, but alone is quite flirtatious. Suddenly, playing the public, Yao Yao with wide-open hands ran to meet Jin Lan. On the way, the girl slipped, but the man, like a real gentleman, caught her. Grandpa and Chen Zhongjia silently and watched the situation. The girl even seemed that Jin Lan had a little bent. Yao Yao, even slightly in the cheek, kissed Jin Lana and whispered to his ear so that he immediately lowered her. Jin Lan turned to his grandfather and explained that it was time for them to leave. The man also asked for something to call. My grandfather hugged his grandson and asked him to come more often. Yao Yao promised that after the entrance exams he would be able to come more often. Young people took their hands as if in love and went to the car. Grandpa and Chen Zhongjia came to the yard to hold young people. When a girl and a man were hiding from stranger, Yao Yao sharply pulled her hand out of her husband's hands. Soon the car has already arrived at the airport. The driver politely took Mrs. Bo luggage. The girl, lifting his glasses, asked her never to call her so because she, according to her, had nothing to do with. Yao turned and went forward. The driver explained that he was driving quickly and the tickets were not tested. The man wondered why Mrs. Bo was still angry. In response, Jin Lan smiled and said that the lady was still very young. The driver added that women are all such and they need to be comforted. Jin Lan looked at him in surprise. The man noted that there was very little experience in Jin Laja because it is necessary not to be imposed, but to be caring. The man also said that you just need to wait and do not rush too much. Jin Lan listened carefully to the information, considering women quite mysterious creatures. Meanwhile, Yao Yao felt completely relaxed because she was finally convinced that Jin Lan would never appear in her life again. To the great surprise of the girl, Jin Lan sat next to her, although there were still many vacancies. Yao Yao looked at her husband with misunderstanding. Jin Lan explained that the girl's uncle knew about his business trip and therefore asked to fly together with one flight and increase the service class. Yao Yao proudly stuck her head and asked why her husband did not send her a bank account, because she asked several times. The girl behaved quite superficially and confidently. Jin Lan couldn't believe that Yao Yao really wanted to give him money. But the girl spoke seriously. She wanted to pay off the debt and break all the relationship with her husband. The man reminded the girl that he offered a kiss for $1 million, but proud Yao said that it was not sold for money. Jin Lan leaned over her and whispered, "He just wants it." The girl considered her husband's suggestion quite nasty, because she did not leave her head. Yao Yao could not believe that Jin Lan, having the bride, offered her kisses. Now the girl was sure that elegance and softness were only the illusion, and the man was a real scoundrel. Jin Lan leaned even closer to the girl, and she blushed. The man decided not to take action against the will of Yao and decided to send her the number of his account. Meanwhile, the girl killed in her head that her husband had a bride, and she could not have a single affair with him. After a few minutes, Yao transferred money to the account of her husband. Closing her eyes, she decided to sleep a little. The girl felt much calmer because she did not have, she thought, the debt to her husband. Jin Lan was admired by a girl. In the last 3 years, it has grown and changed, but her character was as emotional as it was. 3 hours later, the aircraft was preparing for planting, because it arrived in Haichin. Jin Lan asked Yao Jiao to wait for him because he wanted to spend the girl at the school. Yao Jiao was going to meet her aunt. To avoid misunderstandings, she wanted to go alone, and thanked her husband for his cooperation in the capital. Since she gave the debt, she said directly that there was nothing more between them. Yao Jiao asked Jin Lania to pick up her feet so she could calmly get out of the plane. The man released the girl but was upset. A girl with a proudly raised head silently passed despite her husband without even saying goodbye to him. When Yao Yao got to the hostel, she felt very tired. The girl also brought gifts to her neighbors. The girls rejoiced in different little things. Hearing the loud noise, a neighbor Huan Yujian came into the room, who was not too good with Yao. Huan called the girl a princess. Yao Yao was very sharp on his tongue, so her rusted answer did not wait for herself. The girl called Huan a congenital servant who called the princesses of all she saw. Huan was angry and reproached Yao Yao that she felt special because of her family wealth. The girl also took Yao that she won the hearts of people every time with the help of money. Huan believed that such friendship did not cost anything. According to Yao Yao, the girl believed that the grapes were sour without even trying it. Yao Yao, not ashamed, confessed that she was born to be a favorite. Yao Yao called Huan with echidna and sabi and began to merge. One of the girls tried to reassure Huan and reported that it was time to go to dinner in the dining room. Tan Junin asked Yao not to quarrel with Huan because the girl had the best exam results of those who went to the University of Finance. The neighbor was sure that the girl was very envied by Yao. They said that the search for Juana's internships were now unsuccessful. The girls thought that because of this, Huan was all on the knives. Yao Yao could not understand what she had to do with Huan's problems. Yao Yao had no idea why others had to endure the bad mood of the girl. She was convinced that the girl's princess would not be, but her princess syndrome was present. The endless suffering was taught Yao that if she is patient and treacherous, it only provokes others to bull her with double force. The girl had to take herself. Neighbor Shi. In love to watch Yao Jiao condemned others. In her opinion, it was cool. Tan Junin said that watching the defeat of Huana Yujian was a lot of fun. While outside, the girls noticed how a black road car came to them. It was a car Aunt Yao. The girl had no idea for what reason her aunt came to school, because she warned her that she would come later. As it turned out, Aunt knew a lot. She wondered why the girl did not tell her that her boyfriend had come to Haichin. Yao Yao seemed to swallow the tongue. Aunt ordered the girl to get in the car as soon as possible. She also bought Yao Jiao's clothes and asked her to dress. To the great surprise of the girl, her aunt invited Jin Laja to have lunch together. Yao Yao could not pick up the right words because she couldn't believe that the adventures with Jin Lana were still not over. The girl wanted to deny something, but her aunt was rushing since there was no time left. After 40 minutes, Yao, together with his aunt, sat at a table of an expensive restaurant. The girl was dressed in a new blue dress. The aunt slowly flipped the menu, choosing an order. Yao Yao did not believe in the words just lunch. The average check in that restaurant cost at least 4,000 yuan. It was one of the most luxurious restaurants in a hair. One moment, Yao Yao hinted her aunt that the restaurant was too expensive and suggested that she go to another, a little more budget. The girl looked at the woman with a smile but felt very awkward at that moment. Yao Yao even got out of his chair, but her aunt stopped her. The woman explained that Mr. Bo was always eating in expensive restaurants, as well as Yao's family. The aunt first invited her husband to dinner and did not want to fall with a swamp face. The girl realized that her aunt was very good at her and wanted her only the best. She realized with horror that she could not deceive her aunt, so she wanted to confess to her. Soon Jin Lan entered the restaurant. The man apologized for late and explained that there are long congestion on the roads. At that time, the man looked too much business, and Yao first saw him in glasses. Aunt saw nothing wrong in the situation that happened. She got up, greeted, and kindly asked Jin Laja to join their company and sit side by side. Yao Yao grabbed a glass of a cocktail and constantly, without even pushing a tube from his mouth, drank it to hide her concern. The woman suggested that Lana call her aunt. Yao Yao did not expect their little secret with her husband, touched her aunt. Jin Lan and Aunt Yao were brother and sister, and his aunt was just a year older than her husband. Yao Yao believed that to call her sister aunt was unreliable. Meanwhile, the woman was concerned about Yao's state of Yao because the widows were a certain atypical reaction. Yao Jiao pulled behind a napkin to wipe his face and table. At that moment, Jin Lounge caught her hand and asked why the girl was so careless. The girl had an irresistible desire to push her husband. Since aunt was side by side, Yao Yao did not imagine how to do it. Jin Lan personally took a napkin and carefully soaked the girl with a contaminated part of the face. The girl politely thanked her husband and smiled. She was incredibly drawn to Jin Lana, but she could not confess to herself. Yao Yao mentally shot herself, which promised to hold herself in her hands and not rush on her husband. Aunt started an unexpected conversation. She considered Jin Laja a public person. She also confessed that she was worried about Yao Yao earlier when she was in a relationship with Jian Jin. Jin Lan said it was his fault that the girl was so unhappy at the time. The man also looked at Yao and her reaction periodically. Aunt Sin Lanja said that they had already discussed everything with her father and decided that Yao Yao was still too young and had no sufficient experience in a love relationship. The woman asked to be with the girl more attentive and not too persistent. Jin Lan, with understanding, became a woman's words and explained that feelings were a matter that touched both lovers, and without understanding in this situation was in no way. Aunt laughed, and the girl considered her husband a true hypocrisy. Aunt finally realized why Yao Yao wanted to go to the field of finance. Jin Lan, without realizing what a woman hinted at, asked her directly about it. According to Aunt, Yao Yao went there to study for the sake of Jin Lana. The woman claimed the fact that Harvard was the main specialization of the man. She was convinced that Yao wanted to return and help in the management of the company, so she chose the same specialty. Then the woman turned her gaze to Yao and wondered if it was true. In fact, the aunt was not mistaken, and the girl was thinking about it before. And now that her mystery was revealed, she did not want to recognize it publicly. Yao smiled and said that it was Jin Lan who advised her to choose a direction related to finances. The man looked at the girl in surprise, asking when she asked him. Yao Yao was thought that her husband had put her up. She smiled gently with him, though she had everything burned inside her. Yao Jiao pulled the man at the edge of the jacket. Jin Lan remembered when it was. According to the man, it happened the day Yao Yao agreed to become his girlfriend. Yao Yao was very raged because the man was not necessarily a treasury. What to invent? Yao Yao pretended to be offended by her husband and asked him to clean her shrimp. Yao Yao was quite convinced that Jin Lana liked to make a good impression on the elders. Yao was shocked by a man's behavior because he really began to clean the shrimp. It turned out the terrible director of the First Financial Corporation came down from heaven and cleaned Yao Jiao Krevetka. The girl confessed to herself that if it had argued, then all the rich beauties would throw her stones. Jinlan, stretching the girl with a clean shrimp, asked if he deserved forgiveness. Yao Yao had no idea how to behave because the man continued the game. Then Jinlan reached out to the plate and began to clean the girl a second shrimp for the girl, and then the third, the fourth. The woman asked Yao to be careful with her desires and asked not to operate her husband. Yao smiled and asked Jin Lania to stop. The man went to the restroom to wash his hands. When Jin Lan left, her aunt claimed that Jin Lan was truly good and asked the girl in the future to try to get along with him and not heist because of nonsense. Jin Lan was really good, and Yao Yao knew about it for a long time, but she was sorry that she was not her husband. Suddenly, her aunt reported that she had urgent cases. She asked to pass Jin Lanny all the good and left. Yao Yao came to think that the man came specifically. Jin Lan didn't understand what Yao hinted at.